Hello and welcome to my video log about my short film Alone. Alone is about a widowed elderly man named Alfred who is waiting on a phone call from his daughter. Before this, he is completing his daily mundane tasks. Although this is a simple premise, the film follows themes of grief, isolation, and the notion of feeling old and forgotten. Alone is the penultimate film I wrote and directed on my master's degree. This film challenged me as a filmmaker as my main focus is usually topics surrounding feminism and the female experience, so creating a short film on a widowed man was a change of pace for me. I wanted to create a short film outside my comfort zone to develop my skill set. As with many projects, the more you plan, the more prepared you will be. This is why pre-production is one of the most important stages in filmmaking to ensure I am prepared. Script writing does not come naturally to me, so I spent time revising the script and making small changes. The main change in the script was to limit the protagonist, Alfred's, movements around the house, as I wanted him to feel isolated and trapped, even in his home, to highlight isolation in the elderly. Restricting his movements allowed the character to develop further, as there were fewer distractions from the actor's facial expressions. Utilising long takes and a sense of boredom are characteristics of slow cinema. Emir Saglian argues that slow cinema can transform boredom into an aesthetically rewarding experience through its celebration of dead time and foregrounding of dramatic ambiguity. Using vagueness at the start of the film can draw meaning out of each action Alfred completes, making the audience think deeper about what they are watching. Finding a location was the biggest challenge during pre-production. My original idea was to film in a care home room to show him ostracised from society. However, after calling many care homes in Southampton, I soon realised this would be impossible, as their patient protection procedures prevent filming, even in a vacant room. I then considered using a hotel room and dressing it as a care home, but I thought this would be restrictive as there would be no outside shots. Finding a home on Airbnb to match the aesthetic of an older widowed man was challenging, as many hosts did not permit filming in their homes. After a month of solid searching, I found a home that allowed filming. However, it had been recently renovated, meaning the aesthetic was not coherent with the taste of an older person. This meant that costume and set design was important to ensure the house had an elderly aesthetic. In the bedroom, I added books, DVDs, car figures, an old-fashioned clock, a puzzle, walking sticks, and a scarf. These small touches made the room look more lived in. If I had found the home earlier on in pre-production, I would have liked to have consulted with a set designer to ensure the home was even more authentic. Upon finding the location, a test shoot was then carried out with my cinematographer to ensure the shots we envisioned would work in the space. The test shoot was crucial to ensure we had the right equipment, blocking and framing of each shot we wanted to use. After reviewing the footage, we realised that some of the shots did not work in the space, or did not add anything to the story. For example, the high angle of Alfred picking up the phone didn't work, as the tilt and panning was too much movement in my opinion. So we changed it to a low angle and used two separate shots to show the picking up of the phone and the facial expression of him listening to the voicemail. This created some suspense and allowed the audience to focus fully on Alfred. Another shot we changed was the breakfast scene. We had originally had him with his back to the camera, but altered it to a front-on view to be able to show his reactions and use some different shots to keep the audience entertained. The test shoot enabled me to realise that I needed to book out a wider lens to make the room look bigger and Alfred seem smaller, so I booked out a 12mm lens for the shoot date, which worked perfectly in the bedroom and the kitchen. I took inspiration from The Father, which had a similar shot style. The close-ups of his face further showed Anthony's confusion and mental and physical decline of dementia. The Father was my main source of inspiration due to having an elderly protagonist. I wanted to research how the elderly have been viewed in cinema, and this was the most authentic film I could find. Some films, such as The Great Exotic Marigold Hotel and Mamma Mia, show the elderly as comical or parental figures, whereas I wanted to focus on the individual. Whilst Alfred is not facing dementia like Anthony and The Father, we see them both as individuals on screen. I added gardening as a hobby for Alfred, giving him individuality. This also opened up the opportunity for him to be seen outside of his home and try to interact with his neighbours. This gave me the idea to change the phone call scene to when he's outside, as it will take him longer to reach the phone, and by then his daughter will have hung up and left a voicemail. The garden scene in Alone was my favourite to film, as we could see Alfred enjoying his hobby of gardening and watering his plants. The still camera allows Alfred's blocking to utilise the whole frame. Having him at the edge of the frame watering also creates the illusion of a smaller stature, symbolising his insignificance and isolation even in his own home. The subtle look over the hedge and to his watch indicates that he's trying to see if his neighbours will come outside, almost as if he knows their routine and wants to make small talk. This subtlety shows him trying to connect with people, but as they don't come out, it forces him to stay in solitude. This creates sympathy for Alfred as he tries to answer the phone, but ultimately cannot get there quick enough, so he listens to his daughter's voicemail. When editing, I had some difficulty with colour grading, as it is not my strength, but I kept to the earth tone colour palette I had, focusing on blue and green tones. Having blue tones throughout emphasised Alfred's sadness and grief over his late wife, and the green also highlights the natural process of grieving. The audio had multiple changes during the edit, as I originally wanted to have instrumental classical music playing whilst he swayed with the framed photo of his late wife. Upon reviewing this, I thought birdsong would be more appropriate, as it bridges the outside scenes to the inside. The birdsong I chose was the mournful dove call. Doves symbolise love, and the mourning song symbolises grief for his late wife. During the edit, I realised I did not film enough shots of the breakfast scene, as this was all done in one take. I thought this would look effective, but in reality it might lose the audience's attention. However, I believe this could be a criticism of how cinema and online culture has made people demand fast-paced media, where everything is given to them in an instant. I took inspiration from the French film Jean Dillman 23 Commerce Way, 1080 Brussels, where Jean carried out daily tasks including getting groceries, laying the table, doing the dishes and tidying up. This film is not an action movie, but a movie of multiple actions, and this is something I wanted to replicate to highlight Alfred's routine as mundane and repetitive. The daily tasks completed by Alfred show him as an individual rather than a character on screen, helping the audience to sympathise and relate to his grief and isolation. The last scene of the film was inspired by the charity Re-Engage. This charity helps tackle loneliness in the older generation by hosting gatherings in local communities and running regular home visits with volunteers. Their YouTube channel has a short animated film about living with grief, which inspired the script for Alone. In the animation, you see an elderly man and the ghost of his wife. We can see what they used to do together, but now he does these things alone. The emotion and drama in this short animation were inspiring to watch, and I knew this topic was interesting and not discussed enough. It is an important topic due to our ageing society. We will all sadly face these issues, and being open and honest about grief through film can help people deal with loneliness. The feeling of growing old and being without people who you've been around for years is an existential concept that can be quite challenging, especially as I have no personal experience of this yet. I think that Alone captures the emotional state of feeling useless. This is seen through Alfred's defeat when he listens to his daughter's voicemail, showing that missing a phone call could be a reoccurring experience for him as he is getting older and slower. But he does not call his daughter back, and therefore the audience can tell that he just feels like a nuisance. I'm very happy with the way the actor captured Alfred. He is put together on the outside, which juxtaposes how he truly feels on the inside. Having no dialogue was a creative choice that worked well, as it fitted with the isolation theme. He has nobody to talk to, so is silent. It also allowed the actor to have more creative freedom, as he could express emotions through actions and facial expressions. If I were to reshoot this film, I would spend a little more time with my actor before the shoot to fully discuss the character and my aims for the film. This could then create an even deeper character and show more sides to Alfred that were not explored in Alone. That concludes the end of my video log. Thank you for listening.